Quiet, guys, please.
Sit.
And action.
I certainly know that for me, I really try and look for meaning in what we do and take jobs that are meaningful to me. And I promise you there will never be a job more meaningful to me than this.
Well, it's true that we've been known for big sci-fi and big genre and big action, but for us, it was very much about going to our roots.
Hey, Mark.
I think it's actually a very ballsy decision to take such a 180-degree turn from what they are known for doing.
It's a very personal story, and I was worried that I was entering territory where people can be protective of those stories.
I was always working on it in some form. I think it was living and sort of breathing inside all of us in different ways. And the story started very different than the movie that we ended up making at the end of the day. It's been 7 years of writing this thing quietly in secret with Jody over there. I never thought it would see the light of day.
Although this seems like a departure, this movie, from a Transformers or a Star Trek, it's actually kind of going back to how we met and how we started. You know, Alex and I met in a film class in high school, and the kinds of films that inspired us when we thought this could be a real career were character films.
You know, we were fascinated, I think, by the way that a filmmaker thought about taking a story that was personal to them and then putting it on screen. Flash forward to the moment where you're kind of thinking, how do we get back to our roots? What about the thing we talked about doing at the beginning? What about making that small story?
Most doors in the world are closed, so if you find one that you want to get into, you damn well better have an interesting knock.
My dad had a family before ours. There's nothing sort of spectacular about it, and it ended in divorce, as a lot of families do. He had 2 children from that family. I have a half-sister and a half-brother. We're 15 years apart, so there was no sort of growing up together. I think that there was always a part of me that wondered, you know, who they were and what they were about. I don't know where the idea came from, but it just sort of struck me in a flash. And the image was these 2 siblings as adults watching themselves play as children on a film and realizing that they had known each other when they were kids, but didn't know it. It felt like such an emotional moment. And it struck me that that was the ending of a movie, and I had no idea how to get there. That night, I walked into a party, and a woman walked up to me and said, "I'm your sister." It was sort of like being in a dream, that I had had that idea that afternoon, and then it came out, and we got to know each other, and it was an amazing experience. We got incredibly close. And we started to talk about the different things that we had missed and the time that we had missed. I was telling the story to Bob, and I said, I'm thinking that maybe there's a story here, and maybe this is the thing that we've been looking for so long.
I don't understand. How could you have a nephew? You don't have any brothers or sisters.
I do now.
When it's this kind of movie where it's really from the heart and it's really based on collecting enough character moments that every moment is feeling true and real, well, that's not something you can rush.
Everything that you think is important isn't. And everything that you think is unimportant is.
We were really interested in the idea of partnering with somebody who was only coming at it from a place of pure character and nothing else.
Jody, who we met in college in New York, it was great to work with another voice, just to kind of shake us out of our habits.
The initial idea was little more than I have an idea about a family and a brother and a sister who don't know each other.
It's official. I don't exist.
The father was like a smoked salmon salesman. Alex and I both grew up in LA, so we sort of thought maybe the father's in the music business. My father was in the music business, and I think that opened up a lot of story ideas and other ways into this story that felt a little more authentic than a guy who was like a caviar salesman.
I think part of why it took 7 years was because it took 7 years to collect details that we observed. wasn't one single story that came to us. It was a lot of different things. Everything from a conversation overheard in a restaurant to something you hear as you're walking down the street or something you read sparks a new idea. And it was a slow collection of those details that ultimately came together to become this story.
If you like something because you think other people are gonna like it, it's a sure bet no one will.
The minute it saw the light of day, it happened very fast, which is a miracle to me. And it's an incredible privilege for me to be able to now bring it to you guys and to share it with you and make it yours. I tend to like to operate from my gut. As a director, what I like to get out of my actors is I'd like to see as much of them come onto the screen as possible as people.
All right, let's do this.
Good, okay.
Who they are and what they say between the lines is as important to me as the way they say the lines themselves.
Wow. That was quite a knock.
Alex, he's just a really gifted director.
Yeah, great. Let's shoot it. Beautiful.
He has great instincts about performance and how to talk to actors.
He's just so connected to the story, has a real understanding of these characters, and is also really willing to set his actors free and sort of sit back and see how they interpret the whole thing.
Might as well turn the light off. She could turn it back on.
That's cool. That's a great idea. Bauman?
Really? Turn it back
You're gonna turn the
on?
light off.
Is that a little aggressive?
It was a shared and true collaboration.
Let's try it, see how it works. If it doesn't work, we won't do it.
He always was interested in what we wanted to bring to it and what felt truthful to us and what our stories were. Sam.
There goes Anonymous.
I could tell 2 words into Elizabeth's read on Frankie that she was Frankie.
You can leave the toiletries at home, you know. It's the 3rd step. I didn't know Alex's personal story about it really at all. And of course, it unfolded over time. The great part about making this movie was I got to speak to members of his family. I got to speak to his long-lost sister that he met, so, and really talk to her about how she feels about everything.
I would love it if you could figure it out, and I don't know this job at all, but maybe we could start by asking him some questions.
Frankie is also a character who has so many walls up. Elizabeth understood that at the beginning, and the key to that is deflecting all of your pain by using a lot of humor.
Oh, you think you're the only one who can act like an 11-year-old? I invented acting out, Josh Davis.
I know Alex said that he'd met his sister later on in life and how important that was to him, and which made me think of my own sister and how important my relationship with her is.
Maybe you're onion Ferronis. You want some carrots?
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, no.
All right, good.
Family, the concept of it and the varied kind of definitions of it is one of the most fascinating stories to tell because we all have a personal connection to it. The idea of mother, father, sister, brother.
No, go for it.
No, yeah.
Go for it.
No, you asked me.
I'm demanding you go
Okay, I'm
for
gonna
it.
ask for it.
You know, the string that's getting plucked is, oh my God, I argue with my sister like that all the time. You know, this is just our framework to tell the dysfunction of what it means to be in the family. All the love and all the hate and all the anger and all the forgiveness. I'm sorry about everything. I'm sorry.
This experience, traumatic as it is what brings him to accept himself and to become a man. Because in the end, it really is a coming-of-age story for Sam.
There's a moment that's my favorite in the film when I stubbed my toe.
Oh, so you're still here?
I knew it was like the frustration of dealing with this toe you just hit, and your mom's yelling at you, and you're 30, and you're back at home, and the frustration, it's human. There's no way to do this without bringing up your own personal experience.
Just for some reason, you seem familiar.
That was one of the great gifts, being around people who felt that they were there because they wanted to be. We're all the filmmakers on this movie. We're making this movie together. I'm so, so grateful to you. Any questions you have, anything you need to know, I'm here for it. I love being on set. It's my favorite place to be. Okay, great, let's shoot it. Let's go. I feel like the crew was family, the actors were family, everybody was collaborating on the same thing. The vibe on set to me was pretty extraordinary.
Like, tell me about your recovery. Oh, now you're walking away from me. Why would you walk away from me? Shoot it!
One of Alex's big aesthetic decisions was to place the movie in parts of the city that are not the obvious places. So we're not in Beverly Hills, and we're not in Santa Monica, and we're not shooting the Hollywood sign.
Yeah, pull into here. You have all these different color patchworks of what Los Angeles is, which is a multicultural kind of melting pot of different times and people.
Well, one of the things it does capture is there's a certain kind of beauty of Los Angeles, but also the challenge of it is it's like a blank canvas. You can paint any kind of life you want here. The bad news is, if you don't have any idea what that life is, you can kind of get lost.
You smell like your father. Patchouli. Oh.
Los Angeles is a big character in the movie, and Alex lived here all his life. This is his backyard. So the movie reflects a real insider's view of LA.
My Los Angeles is not a Los Angeles that I feel like I see on screen. It was about finding the locations that felt that they were authentic and real.
I was the hat check girl with the troubadour, and he was like the king of LA.
In a lot of ways, I think LA represents Jerry, the father. And Laurel Canyon was about Los Angeles in a certain era. It was about LA in the 70s, the music scene. It's just everywhere, no matter where you look in Laurel Canyon. The way the window panes looked came from a certain era. Those are very LA-based details.
I did grow up out here.
Oh, where?
Laurel Canyon. You?
The border of Burbank and hell. There are the have and the have-nots in LA. It's something that Frankie's immersed in, surrounded by all these young, hip wannabes, posers, all of that. And she's in the valley in her crappy apartment, you know, around the pool. I mean, I love that sunshine and the beach are right there and she never goes.
We should get a taco or something.
Really?
Or not, never mind. No,
Absolutely.
absolutely never mind.
Absolutely tacos. Henry's wasn't originally in there, but I told Alex ever since I was a kid I wanted Henry's to be in a movie that I did because I've been going to Henry's Tacos since I was 7 years old. Good Lord, it's like watching the Nature Channel.
When we're sitting at Henry's Tacos, you know, those are real stories.
In high school, I was in a band called Technical Virgin.
Good one.
We were pretty good.
In high school, I was on a team of technical virgins called cheerleaders.
No!
Those are from our real lives. That's Elizabeth and Chris sharing things that we happen to feel are relevant.
Yeah, I was a stinky cheerleader. They kicked me off because, you know, I wouldn't do the lame cheers. It's not good when the pom-pom girl is yelling, "This is bullshit," into the stands.
It was about all of our collective experience of growing up in LA, so it was more important to do that than to get the flashy whatever. Lean into it.
What does that mean?
It means that the outcome doesn't matter. What matters is that you were there for it. Whatever it is, good or bad.
In a weird way, part of it is the not knowing what the outcome is gonna be is sort of liberating because you just go, all right, I gotta go for it, man. I gotta get in there and I gotta give it my best. And if I fail, I fail. And if I succeed, I succeed.
Wrap. Thanks, everybody.
It's one of those things we've talked about and dreamt about forever, and to see it happen on this scale with this cast, it's kind of an out-of-body experience.
Having spent 7 years on the journey of trying to write this movie and bring it to fruition, I knew that I had been given a gift, and I knew that it was an opportunity I may never get again. And I also knew that if it was gonna succeed, it was gonna succeed because everybody around me saw the same thing and felt that they were making the same kind of movie. Let's make a great movie and have a lot of fun. And thank you for joining me on the journey.
Hey, Mark?
Okay, yeah. Let's see. If I just get that.
Thank you.
It's in the glove compartment. That's suspicious, Sam.
man. You're already super weird. It's not gonna get any weirder. I wanted to do that. I wanted to look in there.
Do they have Pac-Man now?
At arcades.
Never sleep with someone who has more problems than you.
Ruh-roh.
I sort of know your sister. I'm Sam.
She's not my sister.
Oh, I'm sorry. Your mom. Sorry. Is Carol home?
Work.
I mean, Frankie. Frankie Carol? The mustachioed fart woman?
Yeah.
Do you have Nintendo anymore? Do they still have Zelda? You know, play Monopoly on a Friday with a big bowl of popcorn with that flavored salt? Makes me feel so old.
Almost died. I almost died.
Yeah. Mark.
Oh, shit.
Still rolling. Does one go to a batting cage? Are you good at math? Do you have Play-Doh? I'm very quick. My brain moves at an incredible pace.
And action.
My baby deserves better than what we had.
The loudest birds of all time.
I just couldn't do it. I was like, I can fight through this, or...
I might be a train wreck of a human being, but I am your brother. And you're my sister, and I'd like us to be that. That's all. That's all I want. Does he take one?
And action.
Let's talk in my office.
Okay. Action.
Let's talk in my office.
One more. We can do it. I know we can do it. Here we go. Okay. Action.
Let's talk in my office.
Should I go? Sorry. Let's cut.
So this is a kind of just an editor's assembly of a lot of the footage that we had from the taco scene, which was a really fun scene to shoot. Half of it was written and half of it was improvised. And Chris and Elizabeth had a great time doing it, and we had a really fun time shooting it. So we just wanted to include kind of the broad view of the scene. There was a lot of stuff in it that we ended up cutting out, but just for posterity, here it is.
Background and action.
Thank you, Omar.
Thank you.
How much is it again?
$6.50.
I got it.
No.
No, my treat. Seriously.
Thank you.
You know, I really relate to nachos.
Why's that?
Well, it's like you just take all the stuff you don't want to deal with, cover it with cheese till it's gone.
I think I'm more of a churro guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Enough sugar coating, people forget it's full of shit.
Ba-dum-bum.
Good. And action.
You should probably eat more vegetables.
I am.
Your skin's, you know,
What?
it's a little pale and yellowy. Sorry.
So is yours.
I smoke too much. What's your excuse?
For being yellow, envy?
That's green. Yellow's for cowards.
That too.
What are you afraid of? Wow. Now you're red. What's that about? Rage?
Well, shame, I was gonna say, but I'm angry because I'm ashamed.
I promise you, whatever you're ashamed of, I can top.
You sure you want to play this game?
Hit me.
I lied to avoid a funeral.
Last night, I really wanted to do coke. And instead, I did my neighbor.
Good substitute. That's nice. I'll give that a 7.
What do you got?
Punish my girlfriend for loving me,
And the more she loves you, the more you resent her?
which makes me feel sorry for her.
Which makes you punish her more.
And it's the best relationship I've ever had.
I give that like a 6.
It's like watching the Nature Channel over here.
I told you. I love
Every
this stuff.
spring, the wild Frankie migrates to the Taco
Right.
Henry.
I'll go right for it. I love it so much. I'll give you a nice one. This is a layup one for me.
Nice layup, okay.
I sometimes just want to bail on everything, drive up the PCH, and never turn back around.
Pathetic, like a 4. It's a thought. You don't act, you don't do it.
I always turn back around.
Okay, a 6. I'll give you a 6 for that. See how generous I am? The golden taco goes to Frankie. I'd be full.
I accept.
You're exceptionally good at this game.
I accept your.
Frightening ability to.
You don't have kids. You can't win this game if you don't have kids. They bring on
Well, I might, I don't
all
know.
kinds of ultimate shame.
Ultimate shame. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm horchata right now.
It's delicioso.
Es delicioso. Don Francisco, 34. We're too white to even attempt to do that.
I have to go do my laundry.
Okay. Do you want help doing your laundry?
Do you want to help me do my laundry?
I am so talented. I could mime a shirt fold for you just to see if that might impress you.
I challenge you to a folding game. We're out of our minds.
Hey, Mark. Hey, Mark.
Hi, I'm Alex Kurtzman, and I'm the director of People Like Us.
Hi, I'm Michelle Pfeiffer, and I play the part of Lillian Harper in People Like Us.
I want to talk about how much I love Michelle Pfeiffer. I want to talk about what it was like.
Off
when
to a good start.
We are.
already.
I think we are. So, here's my question for you, Michelle. I was constantly amazed on set. I mean, I feel like I got such an incredible training in. You are so in control of everything about your physicality and your choices, and I could give you the smallest little adjustment and it would have these huge ripple effects, and I was amazed at the consistency of your takes. When I was in the editing room, I would always go, oh my God, she's so down. She knows exactly what she's doing, and I'm curious to know in the very first scene, when we walk in the kitchen and we meet you, what was going through your head? Because I wanted to ask you that so many times on set, but I didn't want to take you out of whatever was going on in your head. Do you remember?
Gosh, it was a long time ago. The great late Milton Katselas once said that an actor should never reveal their bag of tricks.
Yep, I understand.
They don't work for them anymore.
That was pre-DVDs, though.
Pre-Twitter, I don't know. Nothing is sacred anymore.
Yeah.
I think that it was just getting in touch with so many emotions. Probably the closest thing for me would have been, the death of my father. And the incredible feelings of loss and sort of and kind of unresolved, issues that
Sure.
that you have. But I think and it can be anybody in your life, but the feelings of betrayal and isolation, and Lillian has sacrificed a lot, and I think in her mind she felt as if she was making a lot of selfless choices.
Absolutely.
When in fact, it's questionable and it's more complicated than that. And then I think there's a lot of anger and a lot of rage on her part toward her son, Sam, because I do feel that she feels she sacrificed a lot of her hopes and her dreams and her ambitions for him.
For sure.
And now feeling this is how she's repaid.
Right, absolutely.
And really at a time when she would need him most, he really abandons her. And I think that the hurt just runs incredibly deep.
Yeah, that's great. That's yeah, and the amazing thing is that you see all of those things play out on your face in so many small, subtle ways that are so magnified. And I feel like what's been so interesting about watching people watch the movie in that scene is the roller coaster they're already going on with you, because it goes from who is she? First of all, it goes from how painful it is to be abandoned in that church in that moment, to understanding why you're so upset, to the slap, to I'm glad you're home, which it's been very interesting, the I'm glad you're home, because it gets either a laugh in a good way, because it's not but a couple mothers have said to me, I so understood that line because I know the feeling of being so angry at your child and also being so grateful that they're there.
Right, because you don't ever stop being a mother, and all it takes is one genuine I'm sorry, and all is forgiven.
It's so true.
I'll never forgive them for this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can see how it's confusing for audiences to go from feeling sympathy for her when she's left alone, at the funeral, and then when the slap happens, which is, how many times did I try to get you to take that out of the movie?
Many times. And then how many times did I make you slap Chris?
A number of times. And he wanted me to really slap him.
Yeah, he did. And you did.
And I did. And it was, yeah. And then even after we did it, I kept saying, so, did you cut the slap?
Yeah, I know.
No, it's still in.
I did try to cut it just as an experiment to see what would happen, and the scene was too neutralized.
Yeah,
it didn't have the. I think the slap gives it's like the release of the pressure that's been building in the scene, and then all of a sudden there's this and then it's immediately followed by a, I love you in a weird way. The I'm glad you're home.
It's also, now that I think about it, in a physical way, shows the gulf between them and the rage and the violence, really, the emotional violence, and how far they have to go to recover from that. In the end, I'm glad that it's in.
So when we were in rehearsals, Michelle, I found out that you are an artist, and I loved that because I was looking for ways to incorporate elements of all of the cast into the characters, and it felt really right to me that Lillian would be an artist, that she's looking for a way to express herself, and it also felt right to me that she would either, I think as we talked about, it was either unfinished paintings or blank canvases, because she was unable to tap into that side of herself that would express all of the things that she'd clearly been holding inside.
I have that a little bit with my painting. In fact, when I'm shooting films and I'm acting, I don't pick up a paintbrush. In fact, I brought my paints with me on every location I've ever been on, and I've never opened it once, because I'm so kind of immersive in whatever sort of creativity I'm doing.
Yeah.
I mean, whether I'm building a rocket ship out of an old refrigerator box for my kids.
Right, sure.
You know, I get really
Into
obsessive
it.
about what I'm doing. And so I've learned that about myself. And so I think that, you know, sort of tapping into that creativity means tapping into the subconscious. And I think Lillian just has been too terrified to go there.
Mm-hmm. Because what would she find if she did?
Pandora's box, really. I mean, I think all of those emotions that are sort of summed up in this lap in the kitchen.
Sure.
And I think, you know, just a lot of rage, a lot of regret, you know, a lot of pain, really.
It's funny, as a screenwriter, you're always looking for ways to paint a picture that's between the lines. That's in the behavior of it. And as a director, you're always looking for that behavior that's not just about the things people are saying to each other, but about the things that they're not saying to each other. And the painting was so great for me in its simplicity because, you know, we meet, when we see her in that scene, she can't paint. And then at the end, when Josh walks in, she's starting to again. And it's like...
It's so funny because I had this Lillian experience just recently because I've been working and doing a lot of press and hadn't picked up my paintbrush in a long time, and yet I was just feeling that, and then I was in between doing stuff, and I was just feeling kind of anxious, and I was just like and I knew I had to get out and paint, and I knew I kept saying, okay, tomorrow, and finally I got myself out there, and I literally did what Lillian did. I just sat down and just sort of, just paint anything.
Yeah. You have to do the same thing as a writer sometimes. It's the scariest thing in the world.
Just
is to
put pen to paper.
Put it down. Just put it down. You know, even if it's terrible and you're going to throw it away, there's something about the process of forcing yourself to write, even if you know it's never going to go anywhere.
And leaving the editor out of the room.
Exactly, because the more you do that, the more the editor starts to go away.
Right,
you know?
exactly.
The editor is just living and sitting on you until you actually go through that. But it's very painful to push through it.
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny. I always think about like, you're both the child and the adult in those circumstances, because your child wants to just paint rainbows all over the place, and your adult's like, hey, you can't, you know, you got to color between the lines. There's rules. And I don't know. I feel like the process of writing and I'm sure acting in a lot of ways is very similar. It's this weird self-regulation.
It is. It's that thing where I always sort of liken it to dancers and how, you know, they are so disciplined, and every day they've got to do, you know, their series of, I'm not a dancer, so I don't exactly know, but they, you know, it's very rigorous, but once they get out there and perform, they have to let all of that go.
Yeah, and just be in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the challenge.
Carol's pissed. Now I have to go to kid therapy and play with blocks till I cry.
This scene, you were like a marvel to me in this scene for a bunch of reasons. Both of you were, because, you know, I didn't want to pre-block it. We went from this location and all the setups here to outside, back into the kitchen, up the stairs, top of the stairs, around the corner, and then the door. There was a lot of setup, and we had a little under a day and a half to do the whole thing. And I watched you guys hold on to whatever you were doing to keep you in that space in the most extraordinary way. And it was, you know, we ran the gamut of really extreme fighting to really pulled back. I mean, there wasn't a variance in the performance, I think, that we didn't cover in some way. Because we weren't sure, like, how much do we want to show at this point, and how much are they going to be at each other, and, you know, what we needed to calibrate it in the editing. But I couldn't believe the technical specificity with which you were holding on to whatever was going on for you for 2 days. I mean, I was looking, you know, Sal, our DP, turned to me at one point. We were on the top of the stairs, and you were so extraordinary in that scene. And I do remember that a lot of the things that we talked about, you know, when we were in the coffee shop, when we first met, I do remember having one moment of saying to you, at the top of the stairs, this is our moment to make the audience understand the choice. You know, we can go one of two ways in this scene. People can judge Lillian because she's forced it, or we can understand that she was doing this for her family, for all the reasons that understandably she thought she was being protective. And I feel like you nail it so radically. at the top of the stairs when it was our family. I did it for our family, and that break that you have. And I couldn't. I felt like I was witness to something so special that you were able to keep that for so long.
Well, thank you. That's so incredibly nice to say. Shucks.
Michelle Pfeiffer's blushing.
Shucks. But you know, the thing is too, it's boy, these scenes too for me are all about the crew. And
Oh my God,
we had an
so
exceptional
true.
crew, and man, there's nothing worse, and I've had it happen more times than I can say, where your best take is out of focus and it's not usable. And these kinds of scenes, especially in a drama, you know, this is the scene you're dreading. You know, this is
For
sort
sure.
of right.
No
and
doubt.
there's like that monster of a scene in it that everybody's sort of dreading, and this was it. And I had, of course, one of those. I remember Al Pacino saying to me, you know, you're lucky if you hit it even once in a movie, and it's very unusual to hit it twice. And you just hope that when you hit it once, if you hit it, that it's captured. So it's so much goes into it that is beyond your control, starting with the blocking has to be perfect.
Yeah.
It has to be true every step of the way, because one false move
and you're out.
will disrupt the kind of emotional build to it. And then the fact that the crew was so fast, and that is it's sort of the double-edged sort of doing a film like this, because on the one hand, you know, the first day of work, you have this 8-page monster scene, which, you know, you have sort of 8 hours to get it. But at the same time, it forces everybody to move at a very quick pace. And so for the actor, when you are having to sort of sit with all of this, it doesn't sort of disrupt the energy of it, and you don't have to sort of sit for hours at a time and then sort of rejuvenated and sort of, you know, it's just there and you can sit in it. And so in some ways, doing a film like this where, you know, it's a limited budget, it's a limited schedule, it's very conducive to this, you know, these kinds of scenes.
Right, that level of focus. I remember so desperately wishing that we could get it in a day.
Me too.
Because I was like, I love them so much, and I'm putting them through hell, and I hate it, and I hate, you know, it was my first experience as a director going, it's so hard to do that to somebody.
But, you know, it was a blessing in the end, because as much as we didn't want to have to break and come back the next morning, I did feel toward the end of that day spent.
Tired, yeah, of course.
And usually I'm like, I want to push through, and I'll work 24 hours to wrap, because there's always that fear it's not going to be
you won't
there.
get it back, yeah.
But actually, in the end, the following day when we came back, I was surprised that I was, you know, it was there, and I actually had more energy.
Yeah. No, I mean, you guys we started at, you know, 5:30 in the morning, and I think we went over that day too. I don't know how you held on to it that long. It's amazing. It was an amazing thing to watch, and I felt like you got every nuance that you could ever want out of that scene. One of the things I loved about it too, and I know we've exceeded the scene, but when you guys end up in the kitchen and you're having that argument back and forth, and you're really pushing him, who is she? Oh, and you're kind of being glib about it, and then he says she's Jerry's daughter, and to watch that shift, that utter dropout happen, it was an amazing thing technically to watch you do that, and to do it over and over and over and over again. It's really cool.
Thanks.
So this scene was a big one for me, because it, you know, obviously it's the scene where you find out everything, and you find out what was really going on, and we talked about this scene a lot when we were rehearsing, because I feel like it is a reflection of a truth that I certainly feel like I've experienced, and that is the moment of saying we're never going to agree on something, but I choose to love you anyway, despite the fact that we'll never agree, and you know, the beauty of, I think, where your character comes to in this moment of finally saying, I'm going to come clean because there's nowhere else for me to go. And it's funny that you told me that story about Pacino, because we had that moment in this, and you said the same thing to me on the set that day. Do you remember? When we were shooting, we were halfway through our coverage. We made it to the couch, and you guys broke. It wasn't in the script, sort of the cry and the come together, and you guys broke, and it was this incredible. I mean, everybody on the crew was crying. Everybody was crying watching you guys. And I came up to you and I said, that was so amazing. Maybe we should go back in our coverage so that we can get that moment. And you took my hand and you said, you're lucky if you get that one time in the entire run of the movie. And I actually sort of love that we didn't repeat it because it's so real. And I love not fabricating it in cuts when we finally got there. You just have to watch it happen, and it happens. You know? So tell me about the scene for you.
This was another monster scene, actually.
Yeah, it was.
This is probably a bigger monster than the other one. It was just sort of the challenge that it didn't become too sentimental. I don't know. I don't know what to say about it, really.
We did a bunch of different variations on it, actually. We did some where you were angrier on the couch. We did some where you were softer. And, again, I just was amazed at how quickly you adjusted to whatever the smallest direction was. But I really felt like the thing that was beautiful about this was that, you guys really did, I felt anyway, really did come together. You know what I mean? In the scene, I think you both felt a sense of closure. And if I remember correctly, this is the last scene we shot together.
Yeah,
this was the last scene.
This
right?
was my last day of work.
Yeah. So there was almost a okay, now it's the end of this, and I felt that it was there between you guys, even between the lines.
Yeah, no, I did, and I think that it was interesting because I didn't have a lot of rehearsal. If I remember right.
We had a couple of days. We went through the script with Chris, and we did a little bit. Yeah, but you're right. We didn't do a ton.
Yeah, and I didn't really know him well, and I sort of would kind of come in and out, and so it sort of helped to create that sort of estrangement because these two characters really didn't know each other.
Yeah.
So it was nice to be able to shoot it, and that's a real luxury to be able to shoot it in this kind of sequence, really.
Yeah.
And I don't have a son his age, so that was a little bit of a hurdle for me.
Sure, for sure.
Even though I'm certainly old enough to have a son this age, I just don't happen to have one. But yeah, that moment, it just happened. In fact, it wasn't scripted, and I remember at a certain point I couldn't sort of turn it off. That's happened to me before in scenes, and it's always where it's not supposed to be there.
Maybe that's what makes it so special. Yeah, I mean, it was very real, whatever was going on. And, I'm not kidding when I say the entire crew was, bawling. I felt like half my job, by the way, was to pretend to keep it together while you guys were losing it, because there wasn't room for all of us to do that.
Well, also, but this is also it's a personal story for you, so,
Yeah, I guess I know that had a lot to do with it for sure. But the thing that you said about how sentimental or not to make the scene or how emotional to make it, at some point you kind of can't control that. This scene was a wonderful scene to shoot, and it was much longer. Remember the original scene between you and Josh in the kitchen? There was a whole thing with the cookies, and we had a whole...
Yeah.
And it was funny because when I cut the scene, and it was a great scene, but I sort of felt that in the rhythm of the movie, that the story had been told, and that Lillian letting Josh into her house was the point. It wasn't about dialogue. It was about the moment of and it kills me every time I see it. Your moment of, realizing who you're talking to, and just that you can see the gears turning in your head of oh my God, this is the choice. This is the moment where I have to make the choice about whether or not I'm going to open my heart and open the door and let him in. And if I do that, is it going to be my redemption? And you do it. And there's such a beautiful thing about it that it didn't need more than that,
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's probably whatever the audience comes up with in their own imaginations is going to be so much better than anything that we did.
Totally right. Yeah.
Because they'll bring their own story to it.
That's totally right.
Their own history.
Look at you there. Come on. What's better than that? It's so good. Yeah. No,
he was so This boy is so talented.
Yeah, he's amazing. The thing about Michael that's so great is that he's much more interested in his music and he's a wildly talented musician.
True?
He's a wildly talented. He's so.
Oh, I did know that he has a band,
yeah.
right?
He has a band called Members of the Press. He's 12.
That's a great name.
Yeah, I mean,
for a
like
band.
12, and he gave me a song of his called "The Cool Side of the Pillow" that he recorded with his brother.
He'll be like Johnny Depp.
100% he will, and he's so much more interested in his music and being a musician than he is really in being an actor, and it makes him a tremendous actor because he's totally unself-conscious and he's not at all interested in impressing anybody.
He's so easy, right?
Yeah. Well, I think we've reached the end.
I think we've done it.
Yeah. I'm so glad we got to do this together.
Me too.
This has been so much fun.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
This is our swan song.
It is. Goodbye.
Bye. Until the next one.
Until the next one. I want to talk about what it was like when we met and what we saw in this character. And I'm really curious to have you talk about what your hesitations were and then kind of how we attacked them.
Well, I loved the writing a lot, and I loved the subject matter. I was a bit trepidatious about this part because on the page, even though I'm not sure that's at all how you all meant it, on the page she read a bit arch and cold, very, very icy, and that concerned me a little bit because I felt like my take on it was to make her human, basically, and so I flew in and met you at a diner.
Yep.
And I fell in love with you the moment I saw you. And I think we had the same glasses on.
Yes, except you had two, which
well,
also made me fall in love with you.
Yes, I think that was the moment. When and actually, people have mentioned that moment to me in the movie.
Really? The two glasses?
Yeah.
That's very gratifying.
And anyway, we talked and come to find out we were both on the same page about where we wanted Lillian to go and the colors that we wanted to bring and the humanity that we wanted to see with her.
The thing that you said to me in that first meeting that was so that I really felt you would inherently know how to protect this character was that it'd be so easy to judge Lillian when the movie starts to reveal itself and you understand why she's upset. It'd be so easy to judge Lillian for this decision that she made. But I really wanted a part that was that it's easy to make snap judgments about somebody the first time you meet them, but until you're in their shoes, you really don't know why they make choices. And I wanted the audience to have the journey of going from, wow, she seems really cut off, to, oh my God, she was doing this to protect her son because she loved her son, because she was trying to keep her family together. And if I were in Lillian's shoes, I would probably have made the same choice. That's what I wanted people to be thinking and feeling. And it was so clear to me right off the bat that you for all the right reasons did not want to demonize her, and it would have been so easy to do that.
Yeah, because I really feel like she's not the villain in the piece.
Totally.
And I think that, potentially she could have mistakenly become that.
Yeah, easily. I think she easily could have become that. And what I really wanted the audience to do at the end of the movie was connect to her and watch her go through the journey of going from being so upset and closed, and she's kept so much inside. And I think on a lot of levels she hasn't really let in the consequences of the choice, and yet what you come to find out later on is that she understands that part of why Sam ran away had to do with the way that everyone sort of didn't deal with the problem, and I loved the beauty of everyone finally coming to a place in this movie where they could deal with the problem. What's funny about this scene is that this is the first night we actually shot together. This was our first scene together, and we shot all night.
All night. Yeah.
And I remember, as exhausted as I was at the end of the day, being in the car and we were texting each other, and it was like, oh my God, this is the best night ever. You were so. Remember, here's what was funny about this scene. It was only supposed to be 2 setups. And then we got there, well, not 2 setups, but 1 location, right? We're supposed to walk down and then we got there and it was like, no, they're going to walk down, then they're going to sit on the bench, then they're going to go to another road. whatever you planned goes away instantly. And not only that, but you've actually added twice as much work for yourself, and you only have one night to shoot the whole thing.
And it's one of those days where the longest day of the year where the sun comes up at like 4 in the morning.
To say nothing of the fact that you also have a 7-page scene and a monologue.
My first day of work. Thank you very much.
Your first day of work. It was crazy, but somehow we got through it, and it was my first cut of the scene was 10 minutes long. It was really, long, but this was an interesting lesson for me because I never wanted to pre-block anything. I wanted you guys to get into the space, feel what felt right, and then we would light around, or we would light accordingly. And I don't know, like there was something beautiful about this because you were so, I mean, God, when I heard you do that monologue, it was so gut-wrenching and beautiful. And what I loved about what you did with it was that you're lulling the audience into, oh, this is my sweet, sweet memory with my husband. And then it just turned on a dime.
Like the slap.
Yeah.
It's like another version of the slap.
But and yet the person who's being slapped in the scene is you in the monologue. Because when you find out what was actually happening, I had these dreams and it was so beautiful and I wanted to be like Joni Mitchell, and I met this man who was actually going to maybe get me there. And then one night he did this thing without a lot of language. He just said, go up and sing. And so I did, and my singing life was basically over at that point. My dreams were gone. And I don't know, I loved that. I mean, also, it's very fun to work on scenes where you think it's going in one direction and it's going to be about people coming together, and then something happens and it just goes off a cliff. And then, you guys devolved into the fight, which was much longer actually in the original cut. There was a lot more, after the monologue and the getting up. But this was my best memory was that I would call cut and you'd come up to me and you'd grab my arm and say, what else can we do? What else can we do? How can we make it better? And I just was like, I can't believe that Michelle Pfeiffer is actually, asking me what she could do better. It's amazing.
Wow, it's such a beautiful piece of writing, really.
Did you enjoy the scene? Did you like doing the scene?
I did actually, and it was a monster of a scene, and it's one of those scenes that I didn't look forward to doing. But in the end, I really, in fact, I texted you after, and I was just so happy and grateful. It was just very inspiring for me.
It was fun.
Yeah.
As hard as it was really fun.
Yeah.
I have a technical question for you. I had a really interesting conversation with Chris about playing drunk or playing high. And he said something I thought very smart, which was, drunk people, the objective is to stay sober.
Right.
It's not to be drunk.
Right.
It's to actually try and feel like you're trying to focus.
Over-articulate because you don't want to sound drunk.
So what did you do in that scene to play high? Like, it was it the same kind of thing? I mean, high is different than drunk. It's a different vibe.
Yeah, Chris is right in terms of, trying to do high or trying to play drunk. And also, some people, it's, people, it manifests itself in different ways. I mean, some people can have, 2 drinks and they're falling down drunk, and some people have a much higher tolerance. And so it's sort of knowing, at what level you want to play it.
I was amazed, honestly, when you said you wanted to do the movie, aside from being, doing cartwheels, and I was amazed at how quickly it felt like we trusted each other. I mean, I trusted you just based because you're you, but you had no real reason to trust me as a first-time director.
It was that first meeting. First of all, I think, you're such a gifted writer, and so that already tells me you have an incredible story sense, beginning, middle, and end. Knowing how to tell a story is obviously, crucial for a director. And obviously the writing was such that you had a strong sense of the human condition and human behavior. And because the characters just rang so true to me, all of them, the entire piece. So that told me a lot about you. And then when I found out it was your story, I knew how much passion you would bring to it and how committed you would be. And the fact that I was playing your mother, or a version of your mother, I was incredibly flattered, and it was my ego. It was my ego. And then again, we were just so immediately in sync with Lillian, and so I I hadn't done a character like this ever, and it scared me a little bit, and I think that's always a good reason to do something. And it was just big enough because I was sort of venturing into new territory that I felt I wasn't biting off more than I could chew at the moment.
Sure. I was amazed at how instantly vulnerable you made yourself, but I think it's because you were so clearly from the beginning so committed to protecting her. You really wanted to protect her and make sure that the audience, while maybe being off kilter at the beginning in terms of not understanding what was going on behind her, that we were invested enough in the question that we kept watching to find out what was really going on.
I think actors always have to protect their characters, and I don't care if you're playing the biggest, if you're playing Hannibal Lecter,
totally.
You have to find the humanity in that character, and those are, for me, those performances that when I've seen other actors find the humanity in the villains are the most compelling.
Totally.
Even the characters that I've sort of I remember when I did White Oleander, it was just kind of, she was so, there was nothing that I could relate to about her, and I didn't know. I knew all of those other characters in that piece, and I loved the book. Again, I loved the writing.
Yeah.
I knew all of those women. I grew up with all of those women in one form or another, but her, the one I played.
You did.
Because,
So what did you find in
it was
there?
very hard. It was very hard. I found one thing, which I will keep to myself.
Yeah.
But I counted the hours, the minutes till I finished with that, because I hated embodying that character so much.
It's interesting to me that obviously that character and Lillian are so different, but I felt that I was playing a very similar guessing game with your character in White Oleander, of wondering, does she love her daughter? Does she hate her daughter? Does she try to destroy her daughter? Does she try to redeem her daughter? What's going on here? And I think that's got to be a hard line to walk as an actor, to ask the audience to go through all those different feelings, to convey each of those emotions enough to throw people off kilter. Must be really hard.
Well, what's challenging is when you're playing a supporting role and your screen time is very limited, and so you sort of try to, that how critical every moment is in building a character like that, and also knowing that once it's really out of your hands at a certain point, and any one piece of that performance can be gone.
Sure, and then
there can
it's like
be
the continuity is
there can be a
broken.
huge gap in the character.
Right,
Then of course you get blamed for it.
Sure.
But I think I knew that you would protect that. I mean, I knew how important it was and to you, and because there is always that danger.